So all eyes were on Russia yesterday and will be for the next month as the world waited for the biggest sporting event to start. Russia didn't disappoint as they thrashed Saudi Arabia 5-0 in the opening match. Today we'll see North African giants Egypt take on Uruguay. How far, in fact, will the African sides go, and will we see an African side progressing past or to the semi-final stage? To talk a little bit more about this, we have joined in studio by Mark Haskins, a football analyst. Very good morning to you, Mark, and welcome to the agenda.
Well, thanks for having me, Ren.
What did you make of yesterday's opening match?
I think it couldn't have gone any better for Russia. They came into the match under a lot of pressure from their fans. I think their home fans didn't expect too much from them. And unfortunately, South Africa have the tag of the only host nation not to qualify from the opening stage. And very many people felt that Russia would probably join them. But they've done themselves a huge favor. That 5-0 victory, emphatic. And it shows that, you know, being the host nation, the euphoria of the World Cup, I think they rose to the occasion, and their fans can be very proud of them. The only thing I'm worried about is that they're going to get ahead of themselves, because realistically, that was their easiest match. Because if you look at it, those are the two lowest ranked teams in the tournament. So I think they still have a lot of work to do, but I don't think they could have asked for a better opening.
They couldn't have, although if you're waking up as a fan of Saudi Arabia, you're really dreading the next two matches against Uruguay and Egypt, if yesterday was anything to go by.
Unfortunately, based on that result, many people would say that they are going to be the whipping boys of Group A. And I don't think, I personally, based on that performance against Russia, who I think don't have the savvy, the personnel that Uruguay or in Egypt have, I think quite easily they're going to just be doing damage control more than anything in their last two games.
Who's your pick to win this tournament?
I've been asked this question so many times. I'm really not sure. I love Spain. I love the football they play. I love France. When I speak, I always say that I'm supporting the 6 African teams. So I'm speaking about the 5 and, of course, France, who are considered somewhat an African team. But I would say Spain are going to be contenders. Germany are always going to be contenders, but right now Brazil are probably the favorites, purely because when you look at their squad as a whole, they've got the most complete squad. I think this team, compared to their 2014 team, I think they would have loved to have this team in 2014, because 2014 they did not have depth. In 2014, they didn't have anybody who could come off the bench and make a difference. Right now, you could see Neymar not playing and Brazil still being formidable. In 2014, if Neymar wasn't there, there was no Brazil. And so that's why Brazil is probably the ranked favorites. And I think this World Cup is going to be a lot about the co-stars. And when you look at your Messis, your Ronaldos, they're always going to shine. Neymar is going to shine. But I think the difference is going to be the co-star. Football has trends. And the trend in football at the moment is, like, you look at the UEFA Champions League final, Cristiano Ronaldo, we know, Mo Salah, we know, they were the stars of their respective teams. But it was the co-stars who actually, on the day, in the final, were the ones who came through.
You mentioned a couple of big name stars, and I think a lot of the teams that are at the FIFA World Cup this time around, they kind of have the same thing going for them. Egypt, we have it with Mo Salah. Portugal with Cristiano Ronaldo. Argentina with Lionel Messi. So we've got teams that are putting all their hope on one big superstar. But do you believe we've actually moved on from that? That football can no longer have what Diego Maradona enjoyed when Argentina won the World Cup, where you could just shine as one player and you would make all the difference? Football
has definitely evolved since the era of Maradona, and I would even, you know, when you look at what he did in 1990 and 94, the team was so dependent on him. And when remember, he was disgraced, obviously, with the drug scandal, and then the team completely capitulated from there. So football has definitely evolved since then. And that's why I say this World Cup for me is going to be a lot about the co-stars. You look at Brazil, they're number 9, 10, and 11. It's not just about the number 10. Neymar, we know, is going to shine. But they have a number 9, Gabriel Jesus, who's, I mean, he's on his day is phenomenal. Then you've got Coutinho, who's a game changer. You've got the likes of Willian, you've got Paulinho coming through from the midfield. Those are all game changers. Those are guys who can rise up on the day. If Neymar's having a bad day, someone else is there that will be able to carry the team, and that's the difference. And then you look at someone like a team like Argentina, you know, somebody's going to have to stand up alongside Messi. for Argentina to do really well. Germany's always been good. They've never been the type of team that relies on one or two players. Yep. Germany have strength in numbers. They've always been about strength in numbers. And I think this tournament's going to be pretty much the same. France again. France, it's not just about a Pogba or a Griezmann. There are a lot of guys around them who are match winners. You've got, the names are endless. Mbappe can rise up on the day. Giroud, if he's called upon, can do a job on the day. So I think this tournament largely is going to be about the guys who are able to rise up and, support their superstars.
It is incredibly exciting because something that we see with Brazil is we know them as a team that have got flair, and their offensive game is always on point, but their defensive game sometimes has let them down. But that is something that has completely changed this time around. And then you've got some of the other teams that are really exciting that you have mentioned. Germany, you can never write them off. They are the nation with the most amount of last 4 appearances at the FIFA World Cup. But I want to focus in on the African teams because of course, and I'm not talking about that 6th one in France, okay? The ones that actually genuinely come from the continent. Who do you see going the furthest?
It's a really tough one. I think it's with Africa, it's always about the group that they're in. You look at a team like Ivory Coast, when they had their golden generation, unfortunately, when they made it to the World Cup, they were in pretty much group of death. When I look at the groups this time round, there are groups where you feel the African teams can make a run. You look at Group B, where Morocco is. They've got Spain and Portugal. But the good thing for them is that they play Iran in their first game. And should they get a win in that game, they need to, it's imperative for them to get a win against Iran, and that match takes place today. Because if they do that, they take a lot of pressure off themselves. And now if, let's say, a Portugal loses against Spain, when they play Portugal, a draw will be good enough in that game. And then a draw against Spain would be good enough for them to progress. So how they play the groups and how they approach the groups is also going to be key, because it's not about going out and winning all your matches. There are matches that you feel you probably have a better chance of winning. You want to go out and win those matches, and then you manage the group. So a team like Morocco would have to manage that group. If they can get that opening win, and then even 2 draws in the next 2 games would be literally good enough for them to get to the round of 16. And then once you're in the round of 16, anything can happen from there. Egypt, they would be favorites along with Uruguay to advance from Group A based on rankings. But again, they play Uruguay in their opening match. I think the main thing for them, do not lose this match. I think even a draw in tonight's game would be okay for Egypt, because then they can go to Russia and Saudi Arabia, matches that they feel they should probably win. And so it's about managing, once again, like I said, the group. Senegal, they come up against Poland, Colombia, and Japan. A very evenly matched group, but one that I think Senegal can get through as well. Remember, in 2014, we had 2 African teams advancing from the group. That was the first time. So this World Cup, we could see more than two and hopefully more advancing from the group. And once we get to the round of 16, then it's anybody's game, and anybody's guess how you manage it. Again, you could go to penalties and get to a quarterfinal. We look at Portugal, how they won the Euros. I mean, they finished 3rd in their group. Fortunately, at the Euros, best 3rd place team qualifies. Portugal went on to win the tournament, finishing 3rd in their group. So it's, again, I think for the African teams, it's a lot about managing your group, making sure you don't just attack every match as in I want to win every match, but manage the group, make sure you get the points where you can, and then if you need a draw to get through, just take a draw. In the last World Cup, Ivory Coast needed a draw against Greece to qualify to the next phase. They lost that match against Greece.
Oh, Mark, and I didn't get to hear your thoughts on Nigeria, because they've got quite a young and dynamic team. One thing is a huge relief is that we haven't heard pay disputes and strikes by players from Africa going into this FIFA World Cup, which seemed to be a little bit of a trend over the last couple of editions. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for.